Hi, my name is Terry, and you're watching Terry Tells the Story. Today we're talking about inflation. Everybody knows about shrinkflation. We've all seen the memes and the shocking side-by-side photos of the candy bars we bought 10 years ago versus the ones we're buying now. Everything is smaller and thinner, but costs twice as much. But here's what nobody is talking about. How does this end? There's a concept in geometry called an asymptote. It's a line that gets closer and closer to an axis, but never actually touches it. Think of it like a rule where you have to move half the distance to a wall every step you take. So you start at 10 feet away, half of that is 5 feet, half of that is 2.5, then 1.25, and so on. You get infinitely closer to the wall, but you never actually run into it. Imagine you used to buy a 20-ounce box of cereal for $2. Then you're asked to pay $2.50 for an 18-ounce box. Later, you pay $3 for 16 ounces. If this continues, statistically, you'd eventually be paying an infinite amount of money for absolutely nothing. Obviously, that's not possible. People aren't going to walk into a grocery store and hand the cashier a $100 bill in exchange for a single Fruit Loop. But I also can't bring myself to believe that a CEO is just going to voluntarily stop doing shrinkflation one day of their own accord. So the question for today's video is, realistically speaking, how does this end? If it cannot keep advancing forever, what's the actual end game? According to historical events, there are 4 doors we can walk through in situations like these, and we've already started opening the first one. Door number 1 is called market correction. This is the most peaceful option. Take, for example, McDonald's. For decades, they raised prices and shrank burgers, and their revenue still went up every year. Until 2024. For the first time ever, sales went down. See, McDonald's was the king of cheap and fast for decades. We all knew the food wasn't great, but that wasn't the point. The point was you could get a lot of calories for a very small price and get it quickly. But then the price hit $12 for a regular meal. Suddenly, it's not cheap, and it's not even particularly fast. People realize that if they're going to pay sit-down restaurant prices, they might as well go to a sit-down restaurant. Why sit at a drive-thru for a $12 bag of lukewarm fries when you can go to Chili's, get a $10.99 meal, have a server bring you unlimited refills, and actually enjoy yourself for $1 or $2 less? McDonald's was forced to back down. They introduced the $5 meal deal just to stay alive. But here's the part they don't want you to notice. As soon as McDonald's sales dipped, they, and Wendy's, and Burger King, suddenly found the ability to offer $5 biggie bags and value meals again. But wait a second. For 2 years, they told us that the $12 meal was unavoidable because of COVID-19, supply chains, and inflation. They said they had to charge that much, that they had no other choice. But the second we stopped showing up, all of a sudden the prices dropped. That proved it wasn't inflation. It was an experiment in greed. They never had to charge that much. They just wanted to see if you would notice that you were being gouged. But here's the scary part. That market correction only worked because Chili's and places like it existed to compete. What happens when there is no competition? What happens when 3 massive parent companies own every grocery store in your state and you still have to eat? That's when door number 1 slams shut, and we have to start looking at other options. Door number 2 is called taxation populaire. If the market won't fix itself, history moves on to door number 2. In 1775 France, during the Flour War, the price of bread got so high that people couldn't survive. But they didn't just steal. They practiced something called taxation populaire. Crowds would walk into a bakery, take the bread, and leave exactly what they thought was a fair price on the counter, the price from the year before. They weren't being thieves. They were acting as regulators because the government wouldn't. If the fair price model fails, people stop trying to be fair. Door number 3 is survival shoplifting. This is the silent stage. People stop seeing themselves as customers and start seeing themselves as scavengers. They go into the store and just take what they need to keep their kids fed. This is why you see toothpaste behind plexiglass today. It's a sign that the system is already starting to rot from the bottom up. Then there's the final door. This is what happens when the bubble breaks completely and hunger takes over. During the French Revolution, the elites were totally out of touch. Legend says that when told the people were starving, a high-ranking official named Foulon said, "If the people are hungry, let them eat grass." The people didn't forget. When the revolution hit, they didn't just kill him. They cut off his head and stuffed his mouth full of grass. That's the historical reset button. When people can't afford the bread, they eventually come for the bakers. Now, these 4 doors don't open in a clean line. It's messy. It's like a pot of water starting to boil. You'll see a few bubbles here and there. One person shoplifting a tube of toothpaste over here, or an outlier like Luigi Macaroni who decides to skip the line and shoot a healthcare CEO over there. It's all happening at once because we aren't all working together, at least not yet. We aren't coordinating, so you'll see some people at door number 1 and a few outliers at doors number 3 or 4. But eventually, as that pot continues to heat up, you stop seeing a few bubbles. You see more and more until the entire pot is bubbling and eventually boiling over. So my question for you is, how do you think this ends? Do you think we'll see a massive market correction where the CEOs finally back off? Do you think we'll see people walking into stores and just paying what they think is fair? Are we headed for a world where everyone is just stealing to survive? Or are we heading for a violent revolution? Let me know in the comments. The Spanish I'm going to be teaching you today is la gente, and what that means is the people. If you liked this video or learned something new, drop a like down below. If you have a specific topic that you'd like to see me cover, drop me a comment. And if you'd like to support this work that I do, there'll be a link to the Cash App in the description box below. We'll see you next time.